What up, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking about who will be the New York distro in Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3, because right now we are at a point moving into Season 3 where Tariq or the Tejada family, none of them have a connect, a plug. And I've already talked about on other videos that in the game, without a connect, without a plug, you're only as big as your connector, your plug, and if you don't have one, you're not even in the game. So I've already talked about that on several videos, and this is where Tariq and the Tejada family stand moving into Season 3. Either though Tariq was in a position where he kind of wanted to get out the game, Mahoney was in a position where she wanted out the game, but both their ways out. Tariq blackmailing Mecca to giving him money to get out the game, and Mahoney using Zeke's NBA career to get out the game. Both of them fell through, so they're both going to be in positions where they need to get back in the game and they need to find a connect. So to see how we got to this point, we got to go back to OG Power to look at the bloody history of the New York drug game according to the Power universe. So if we go back to Power Season 1, Ghost and Tommy were the biggest drug dealers in New York City. They were the sole distributors for Felipe Lobos, who was a Mexican cartel leader. So about as big as they get, their sole distributor. And we know that from Season 1 that their organization made approximately $25K an hour. So that's roughly about $600,000 a day is how much their organization was making in New York. Their operation had premieres in different regions, as well as a courier system they ran as well. So they had a lot of business. They never said, I don't remember what percentage of the New York distribution Ghost and Tommy covered, but I would be definitely guessing it was a large amount of the distribution in New York. Now they still had the Serbs, and they had a couple gangs who were still selling for the Jimenez organization. So they didn't have the entire New York distribution, but I would say well over 50%. They were the biggest, and I would guess well over 50% of the distribution, I would say even close to 75%, was coming from Ghost and Tommy's drugs, because they had premieres in several different regions. So they had a lot of territory, not to mention their courier system. And right before Lobos got busted with Tommy, when Ghost set them up to get busted by Angela, they just finished getting their largest shipment. So we know all the way through Season 2, they were they did nothing but grow in size, even though they kind of had to switch up their operation a couple times on how they did things. And then at the end of Season 2, Ghost, trying to get out the game, he basically kills all his premieres, thinking he's trying to get out the game now that he has Lobos busted. But Tommy continued to run the organization for Lobos while Lobos was in jail, so we can guess that they never really dropped off on size. And then even once Tommy and Ghost killed Lobos, they had to start working for Milan, who was the Serbs. I can't remember the Serb's name, but he was the Serbs Connect, who was one of their competitors, who they ended up robbing to get to work for them. But Milan, he got up under Ghost under the name Dean, and he forced Ghost and Tommy to get back to work for him. So they end up killing Milan and end up having to work for his boss, Jason Minchin. So they actually moved up at this point because now they had even less competition, and Tommy became, for Jason Minchin, he became the Connect. And we know that they were still able to move just about the same amount of product in this time period because they owed Vincent, the Italian mafia boss, $2 million in less than 24 hours for Tariq, and they were able to come up with the money. So that was $2 million in less than 24 hours. That was almost 3 to 4 times the amount they were moving under Lobos. I know it was just a one-time thing. They got all hands on deck, but to say they were falling off too much from the time they were working under Lobos, I definitely don't think so at that point. I still think they were by far the biggest drug dealers in New York City at this point. And then Andre Coleman became a big-time competitor working for the Jimenez. He stole Tommy's premieres, got them to come over and start working for him. And he said his goal was to be the biggest drug dealer in New York, just like Ghost and Tommy was before him. So we all know that Tommy got his people back from Dre, and Dre ended up in jail, and everything what ends up happening with him. But that gets me to the food chain. As you see in crime movies, how they have the top. We even seen it in Power, how Greg had it on his walls, and the different scenes where the office that the DEA, whatever Angela Valdez and Cooper Saxon and them worked for. They had Ghost Picture, Tommy Egan's, everybody who's worked under them. So you got to know, when you hear Primera, someone working directly under Ghost or Tommy, those are the 4 or 5, those are the few people who have direct access to that main connection. Then those 4 or 5 people after who get the supply directly from the Connect, they have multiple people working under them, and possibly even working under them before the drugs actually get to the point of use. So anybody who worked under Tommy Egan or Ghost for that matter, they were, you can understand, they're pretty big time into the game. So that gets me to going to be the 2 remaining members left of this drug organization from Power, because Ghost gets killed, Tommy Egan leaves town, Andre Coleman's dead, the Jimenez both are dead, Milan dead, Jason Minchin dead, Lobos, all of them gone. The only 2 remaining characters, as well as all the Primeras, Kanan, anybody like that, Ruiz, all them, all the Premiers, everybody, Spanky, everybody who was ever working for them, all gone. There's only 2 remaining members of this organization left. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's actually 3, but Tasha St. Patrick don't really count, but she's gone too. I mean, Tommy Egan is officially, he's still alive, he's out of town. Tasha, she's gone too, so I'm not going to count. I should say her because she was a member of this organization somewhat. So anyway, the only 2 real remaining members of this organization left is Cristobal, who is in prison, and he could very well be released because he was arrested at the time as Alicia Jimenez, and we know that she was kidnapped by Tommy's crew and killed by Jason Minchin. So that could affect his case and possibly be a way that he is able, without them being able to convict Alicia Jimenez, Cristobal might be in the clear and he might be able to get out of prison. And we already know my boy 2-Bit, definitely a fan favorite, got out of jail in Ghost Season 1. We saw him in a few episodes. And the last time we saw him, he was saving Tariq's life. And he told Tariq that he now owes him 50 more bands for saving his life. But 2-Bit has never come around, I guess, with all the heat from killing the guy in the pool, and then all the heat that got on campus, as well as Tariq facing murder charges with the Jabari Reynolds case and the cop, I can't remember his name. But yeah, facing all that heat, I think is why 2-Bit wasn't around in Season 1. So those are 2 remaining members of the Ghost and Tommy drug organization that could possibly, they're not going to have a connect either, because their connect was Ghost, Tommy, the Jimenez, Andre Coleman. They didn't have a direct connect themselves, but being that deep into the game, there's always a chance they could find one. But it's definitely not easy finding a new connect. Definitely, especially when all those connects have been eliminated from the scene. So that gets me into where we got in Ghost Season 1. We have Tariq working for the Tejada family, specifically Monet Tejada. And her connect at this point, we don't know who her connect was or how long this guy had been her connect, but her connect was Rico, a guy coming in from Baltimore. So she wasn't even getting her supply from New York. She was going through out of town supplier named Rico. So that could definitely show that people, once Ghost and Tommy's organizations fell apart, that people started having to look for outside sources, going out of town and different things to keep their businesses alive. And this is something you'll definitely see in the drug game for real. It's what you'll call droughts. They can last for significant period of time where a supplier of an entire city might get busted or get killed, whatever might happen to them, and the city just goes completely dry for months at a time. So trust me, I've had to suffer that experience myself while I was in the game. So not the best times. It's when those times are in the game is going on, you can expect the murder rate to increase significantly, because there's a lot of people out there in the game who's hungry, who's looking for their next come up. So they've taken a lot of money. You think you're making, ain't nobody was making $25K an hour like Ghost and Tommy were, but if you think you're making $2K a day, and that dries up, now people start getting desperate. So we saw it in season 2 of Ghost, where they start having to hit licks. They hit, and that gets me into season 2. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So after Monet kills Rico, who was her connect in season 1. In Monet, she wasn't as big as Tommy and Ghost. She had distribution through Queens, which she took solely to Stanfield in season 1. So then she kills their connect Rico for shooting her son Drew. So at that point they had no connect going into season 2, where Kane meets the new connect Mecca, which we already know his history with being Zeke's dad, and I don't got to get into his complete backstory, but we know he was the connect. I'm keeping this just about being the connect. He was the connect in season 2, and Mecca came to New York because he heard there was an opportunity or whatever. Basically, he had heard that Ghost and Tommy's organization was finished, so that is why he showed up in New York. And we know that he knew about Ghost because he admitted in the season finale, I think it was, to Tariq, about knowing about Ghost and about how he worked for Felipe Lobos, and I think he was going to snitch on Lobos or something, because you know he was the goat of global snitching. He snitched on a lot of major players. So that gets Mecha killed at the end of season 2, leaving us to where we are in at season 3, where they do not have any connect. That gets me to the question, who is Mahoney? Mahoney was mentioned a few times, I think in season 2 episode 6, where Kanan and Braden robbed a couple of Mecha's competitor. Mecha had the locations of a couple of his fronts, and Kane and Braden went and robbed a couple of Mahoney's fronts, who was Mecha's competitor. Mahoney was also a newcomer to the New York drug scene, moving in on some of the same territory Mecha wanted control of. So they did not put Mahoney out of the game, even though he took a lot of losses through those hits from Kane and Braden. He's still in the game. So that's who we definitely know to keep an eye out for sure into season 3. He could be looking for revenge off Kane and Braden, because Braden Weston didn't even wear a mask in that jewelry shop robbery. So I don't know if they had any cameras, but they sure enough didn't kill the guy who was at the store. He hit him with the gun, but they didn't kill him. So they could definitely be out on the hunt looking for that white boy Braden Weston at the Mahoney crew. So there's no connect for Tariq and the Tejadas moving into season 3. I left a couple names on the table: Cristobal, 2-Bit, Mahoney, all major players in the game. So you don't know if Mahoney was even more big time than a 2-Bit or a Cristobal, because they had their own region as well. So you can say they were probably even bigger than the Tejada family. So I have my theory that 2-Bit was Monet Tejada's supplier before Rico. Because you know he was the distro for Ghost, or not Ghost, I guess he was Tommy's distro, but he was the distro through the Queens area, and somewhat for Ghost when Ghost was still in the game, when they brought Kanan and Andre Coleman in as one of their premiers to take over for Rolla and his crew in season 2. So they had been in it for a long 2-Bit had been in it for a long time, so I feel like he definitely could have been Monet and the Tejada families connect. So don't be surprised if there is a connection there also that we end up finding out about later on. But there you have it, my video, who will be the connect, who will be the distro, the kingpin, moving into Ghost season 3. Leave your thoughts in the comments.